In this lecture, let us discuss Preamble of the Indian Constitution. Now, what is a preamble? What are the things mentioned in the preamble and what do they signify? Is preamble part of the Indian Constitution or not? What is the significance of preamble? Indian Constitution, was it the first one to begin with the preamble? All this and much more, let's discuss now in this fascinating discussion on the Indian preamble. Preamble is the philosophy of Indian Constitution. Preamble is the identity card of the Constitution. What do we mean by that? Let me give you few analogies. Here is a book, a novel for example, and you want to read this novel. What is the first thing that you encounter? Preface to this novel? What does this preface signify? What does this preface tell you? Preface will tell you what is this book all about, but not just that. Preface will also tell you something about the author of this book. What was going on in the mind of this author when he was writing this book? In a similar fashion, what is the preface to the Constitution of India? Preamble. Preamble tells us what is this Constitution all about. But at the same time, preamble tells us what was going on in the minds of those who drafted this Constitution. For example, you would have read and understood in modern Indian history lectures about the Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly, which was given to us in 1946 when Cabinet Mission was sent to India. This Cabinet Mission promised the people of this country that you will be in a position to write and draft your own constitution. So Indians were part of this Constituent Assembly and they wrote and drafted this constitution for the people of this country. And this preamble to the Constitution of India, it tells us what is this constitution all about? And at the same time, it tells us what was going on in the minds of those who were part of the Constituent Assembly who drafted the Constitution of India. So if the Constitution tells us about justice, if the Constitution talks about political justice, social justice, economic justice, if the Constitution talks about democracy, if the Constitution talks about rule of law, this is something that we can get an idea of by looking at the preamble to an Indian Constitution. I'll make it even more simpler. For example, I have to start a school for young girls. What is my philosophy? I want to provide affordable education to the girl child. I want to provide quality education to a girl child. I want to provide best kind of facilities for the overall development of the mind, body and soul for our girl children. What is this? This is my philosophy. My philosophy is to provide good quality education, top quality education, affordable education, so that through this education, it leads to overall development of mind, body and soul of our girl child. In the similar fashion, what is the philosophy of the Indian Constitution? What does the Constitution try to achieve? That is something which is reflected in the preamble. So long story short, what is preamble? Preamble is the identity card of the Constitution. Preamble is the philosophy of the Constitution. This preamble sets the ideals and goals which the makers of our Constitution intend to achieve. So the makers of our Constitution, those who were part of the Constituent Assembly, they wanted to ensure democracy, rule of law. They wanted to provide fundamental rights. They wanted to provide economic justice. They wanted to provide liberty. All these are goals. All these are ideals. We should establish a welfare state, a state which exists for everybody, a state which exists for the weaker, downtrodden sections of the society. This is the ideal of our Constitution. This is the goal of our Constitution. And where can we find this mentioned in the preamble? The Supreme Court, way back in 1967, said, preamble in a nutshell contains the ideals and aspirations of the Constitution. So if you want to understand what is the ideal, what are the ideals, what are the goals of our Constitution, for that you just need to refer to this beautiful document called the Preamble. And when we look at this Preamble, it not only tells us what is the Constitution trying to achieve, it also gives us a sneak peek into the minds of those who drafted this Constitution. This is a question which was once asked in your prelims examination. Which part of the Constitution gives us an idea about the minds and thoughts of those who drafted the Constitution? And that part is the Preamble. Because in 1960, in Birubari Union case, the Supreme Court said Preamble can be used to open the minds of the makers of our Constitution. Preamble is like a key to unlock the minds of those who drafted our Constitution. So if the Constitution talks about political justice, social justice, economic justice, democracy, which means it is through this Preamble that we can unlock the minds of those who drafted this Constitution. Which means those who were part of the Constituent Assembly, which drafted this Constitution, those individuals, they were the believers of justice. They were the believers of equality. They were the believers of liberty. They were the believers of justice. So Preamble is a key to unlock the minds of those who drafted this Constitution. And this Preamble is based on the Objectives Resolution of the first Prime Minister of independent India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Objectives Resolution? What is this Objectives Resolution? When Constituent Assembly was set up to draft and write the Constitution of India, Pandit Nehru thought, what should be the objective of this Constituent Assembly? And what should be the objective of the Constitution? Our Constitution should believe in secularism. Our Constitution should believe in rule of law. Our Constitution should believe that all the doubts, all the disputes that we have should be resolved through peace, should be resolved through negotiations. And for that, Pandit Nehru prepared a document. This document contained the objectives of the Constitution. Pandit Nehru thought that this is something that I will present to the Constituent Assembly, that this should be the objective of our Constitution. This Objectives Resolution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 22nd of January 1947. And this Objectives Resolution, with changes in the language, with minor changes in the language, this Objectives Resolution became the Preamble. So long story short, Preamble is the philosophy of the Constitution. Preamble is the identity card of the Constitution. Preamble is a key to unlock the minds of those who drafted our Constitution. And this Preamble is based on the Objectives Resolution, which was introduced in the Constituent Assembly by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And this Objectives Resolution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 22nd January 1947. And it is this Objectives Resolution which became the Preamble of the Constitution of India. And when we look at the Preamble, this is how it looks. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, equality of kind and of opportunity, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of an individual. This is how the Preamble looks like. And for the sake of our examination, for the sake of the civil services examination, when we look at this Preamble, we can break down this Preamble into 4 different areas, into 4 different themes. That means this Preamble talks about 4 different themes. Theme number 1, we the people. Theme number 2, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Theme number 3, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of an individual. And 26th November 1949. And we will look at all these 4 themes one by one. Theme number 1, we the people. What does that mean? That means what is the source of authority of the Constitution. We have discussed that the Constitution talks about various organs such as legislature, executive, judiciary. Constitution talks about judiciary, the Supreme Court, the high courts, district courts. Constitution talks about president, vice president, prime minister, council of ministers, governor, attorney general for India. Now, what is the source of authority of the Constitution? Where does the Constitution derive its authority from? It derives its authority from the people of this country. This Constitution is not the gift of the United Nations. This Constitution of India is not the gift of the United States. This Constitution of India is not the gift of any foreign power. This Constitution is the gift of the people of this country to themselves. What is the source of authority of the Constitution? We the people. And our preamble begins with this beautiful phrase, we the people. That means this Constitution is the gift of the people to themselves. The source of authority of the Constitution, the authority from which the Constitution derives its power, authority, is the people of this country. We, the people of India. That's theme number one. Theme number two, it talks about what is the nature of the Indian state. So if theme number one talks about we the people, which means what is the source of the authority of Indian Constitution, theme number two talks about what should be the nature of the Indian state. The nature of the Indian state should be that it is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. And we will explain all these 5 different terms. But that is theme number 2, the nature of the Indian state. Theme number 3, it tells us what is the objective of our Constitution. If the nature is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic, what is the objective of our Constitution? The objective is justice. Not just social, but economic as well, political as well, liberty, equality, fraternity. These 3, liberty, equality, fraternity, which was the beautiful cry of the French Revolution. French Revolution cried for liberty, equality, fraternity. So the objective of the Constitution is justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of an individual. That is mentioned where? In the preamble. And the 4th one, preamble talks about the date on which the Constitution of India was adopted. Date of adoption. And the date of adoption is 26th November 1949, which is celebrated as the Constitution Day. But the Constitution was enacted on 26th January 1950, and it is this date which is celebrated every year as the Republic Day. What is the difference? Preamble, which is the philosophy of the Constitution. If we break down this preamble, this beautiful text, which is mentioned right at the start of our Constitution, we can break it down into 4 themes. Theme number 1, we the people, which means what is the source of authority of our Constitution? The people of this country. We the people. Second theme, it talks about the nature of the Indian state. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Theme number 3, what are the objectives of our Constitution? Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of an individual. And theme number 4, it tells us what is the date of adoption. This Constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949, which we celebrate as the Constitution Day. But this Constitution was enacted. It entered into force on 26 January 1950. But why this delay? If the Constitution was ready, if it was signed, if it was adopted on 26 November 1949, why was it given effect? Why was it enacted on 26 January 1950? For that, there is a history. And to understand this history, we need to go back to 1929. The year was 1929. Indian National Congress conducted its annual session. And this annual session was conducted at Lahore. The Lahore session of Indian National Congress. And at this historic session of Indian National Congress, a resolution was passed. The resolution was that from now onwards, the goal, the objective of the Congress is Purna Swaraj. What is Purna Swaraj? Complete independence. What is this complete independence? Before 1929, you would know Indian National Congress was created, established in 1885. But from 1885 onwards, till about 1929, what was the objective of the Congress? Congress did not want complete independence. In a sense, their objective was not complete independence. Their objectives kept on changing. Once they were asking for more and more representation of Indians in the Indian civil services. They wanted more and more Indians to be elected to the legislatures. But they did not want Purna Swaraj or complete independence. This is where Lokmanya Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, when he said Swaraj is my birthright and I must have it, he was not talking about complete independence. He was talking about home rule. Similar to what Annie Besant was also asking for. She was also asking for home rule. And what is this home rule? Lokmanya Tilak, he was asking that let Indians be allowed to vote and elect their representatives to the legislatures. And let Indians legislate. Let Indians make laws for the people of this country. But ultimate sovereignty will lie with the British Crown. Right now, who is the head of the Indian state? The President of India. The early leaders of the Indian National Congress, they were saying that the head of the Indian state will still be the Queen of England. But Indians should be capable of making laws for themselves. So prior to 1929, the Congress as a party was asking for home rule, was asking for Swaraj, was stopping short of complete independence. But 1929, a historic session of Indian National Congress on the banks of River Ravi, in this Indian National Congress session was presided over by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and the slogan was Purna Swaraj. The resolution was passed that now Congress party will demand complete independence, complete sovereignty, Purna Swaraj. And in this historic session of Indian National Congress, which was held at Lahore, the Congress decided that 26th January every year should be celebrated as the Independence Day. We were not given independence, but just for optics, just to create an impact. The slogan raised was complete independence, Purna Swaraj. And we will work hard to liberate India from the clutches of colonialism. And we will celebrate every 26th January as the Independence Day. So this date, 26th January, was etched into the history books for India. And 26th January 1930 was the first time when Independence Day was celebrated. So this date, 26th January, had an important significance in India's history. That is why Pandit Nehru requested the Constituent Assembly that although our constitution is ready on 26th November 1949, but we want to etch this date, 26th January, into the history books so that it is remembered forever and ever. That is why even if the constitution is ready, let's adopt this constitution on 26th November 1949, but we will enact this constitution. We will give force to this constitution on 26th January 1950. And it is this 26th January 1950 which is celebrated as the Republic Day. So 4 themes. Theme number 1, we the people. What is the source of authority of the Constitution? The people of this country. Theme number 2, what is the nature of the Indian state? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. What is the objective of the Constitution? Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, dignity of an individual. And the 4th thing that preamble tells us, it tells us about the date on which the Constitution was adopted, which is 26 November 1949. But this Constitution was enacted on 26 January 1950, and it is this date which is celebrated as the Republic Day. And 26 November is celebrated as the Constitution Day. But one important thing for your prelims examination, it's not that entire Constitution came into force on 26th January 1950. Some parts, such as citizenship, it came into force on 26 November 1949 itself. Some parts, such as provisional government, because we had a provisional government, although this government was not elected by the people. The first elections were conducted in 1951. So the first time people voted to elect their government in independent India was in 1952. But till 1952, we had a government headed by Pandit Nehru. This government should be given recognition. And this recognition was given by the Constitution when it was adopted on 26 November 1949, which means some provisions of the Constitution were enacted, such as citizenship, such as provisional government. These provisions were enacted on 26 November 1949 itself. But the rest of the Constitution was enacted, was given force on 26 January 1950.